Welcome, everyone. And my name is Marvin Jenkins, and I'm the coordinator for the Women's Business Center for Maryland Capital Enterprises. And we're a nonprofit organization. And at the Women's Business Center, we assist women entrepreneurs either start a business or expand their existing businesses. We service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. And we offer a lot of educational programs, workshops like the one you're on today. And we also do one-on-one consulting, one-on-one counseling, and we offer loan assistance. We have an office in Salisbury, Maryland, and we also have an office in Baltimore. I'll put my contact information in the chat when we get started here. And I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to turn it over to Rosalind Davis to do the presentation. And we appreciate her because she does such an amazing job when she presents this that she makes a lot of these things that seem complicated very easy to understand. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Rosalind, and we can get going.
All right. Thank you very much, Marvin. I really appreciate that warm welcome. And welcome to everyone. I know everyone is busy trying to run their business, but I just want to say welcome. And this is part one of the MDOT certification application process. So hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, okay. We can see it.
All right. So give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because that's something. Yeah. Okay, that's not working. All right. There we go. Apologize for that. But anyway, I am Rosalind Davis, President and CEO of Rhoda Business Solutions. I am a management consulting firm specializing in program and project management. I also do strategic engagements, business administration, logistics operations, and organizational development training services and solutions. As a small business, I am also certified as a women, veteran, and minority-owned small business located here in the Washington, D.C. area. I also want to thank the Maryland Capital Enterprise Women Business Center Director Lisa Twilley and Marvin for providing this training platform. They have been very gracious in providing this platform so I can present this training to the community. And also Ms. Kamalia Blunt of Lord and Tucker Management Consultants, because she is the one who made that connection between the Women Business Center and myself to provide this training. So I always want to thank Lisa and her team for this opportunity. Now, I want to also thank Rochelle Hemingway. She is the president and CEO of Slay to Success for allowing me to use some of her application screenshots to develop today's presentations. So Slay to Success is a leadership and transformation consulting service that provides professional speaking services, mentorship sessions, and training and development for organizations looking to advance the progression of women holding or seeking leadership positions to impact organizational diversities. Rochelle is also a retired Air Force member as well. Now, I also want to point out my disclaimer. So the screenshots that you'll see in today's presentation are actual screenshots captured from MDOT certification online application. But the views and opinions expressed during this webinar are my views and in no way are the views and opinions of the government or any other entity. Now, I would recommend, if you have not done so already, to in the top right of your corner of your Zoom screen, you might want to switch to the standard view to enhance your visibility of some of the application screenshots. with that, I will move right along. So I posted the link to MDOT certification in the chat.
Recording in progress.
Hear a little feedback. There we go. So here's the agenda for part one. This is a two-part series of the application process. So I want to point out to you, first and foremost, that there is no cost to apply for MDOT certification. It is $0. It is free to apply for this certification. Now, it's a four-step process. So the first step is application submission. That's where we're going to go into more detail today. How do you submit your application? So the second step is investigation to include an on-site or virtual visit and an interview. They want to make sure that you are a valid business and that you are actually operating a valid company as well. Step 3 is the evaluation to see if you meet the eligibility requirements. So this is where they're going to do a deep dive to make sure that your financials are in fact qualify you for the certification that you are applying for. And then the final step is determination. So determination, this is where you'll get your decision letter, whether it's been approved or denied. This whole process takes usually about 3 to 4 months for MDOT to render a decision. So just be patient because they're not just reviewing your application, they're reviewing every application that's been submitted. And as Marvin and I were talking prior to everyone joining, is there's a lot of people that are now starting to start businesses. So once you submit your application, you will have to have some patience because it may take 3 to 4 months for them to get to it. So moving on, starting the process. So again, MDOT is the state official certification agency for companies seeking minority business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise, airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise, and small business enterprise certifications, effectively known as MBE, DBE, SBE, and ACDBE certifications are the common acronyms that you will hear. Now, the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, they highly recommend that you apply for your MBE, your DBE, and SBE at the same time because it's a uniform application where you can get all 3 of those certifications by submitting one application. Now, if you want to do business at the airport, then you have to complete the airport concession application as well. And it's just a slight difference in the process for that certification. Now, for today's training, I'm going to focus on creating an account and applying for a new certification. At any time when I get to a transition, if there's any questions, if you could just let Marvin know and he will chime in and I will answer those questions, or you can wait to the end of this training. So on this screen here, once you enter your business tax ID, the system will check to see if your company is already listed in the database. So in this case, because this is a new application, a match was not found. So you will continue on to create an account. Now, where do you get your business tax ID from? You get that from the IRS.gov. It is sometimes referred to as your employee ID number. And if you don't already have an employee ID number, EIN, then you need to apply before you can go get your certification. Getting an EIN is a simple 10-minute application process. However, once you start their application, you cannot save your information. So you have to be ready to submit once you start it because you can't start and stop. So on the screen here, at a minimum, you will need to complete all the fields with asterisks as highlighted on this screen. And again, continue to complete all the fields with asterisks. And most of them are self-explanatory, but I continue to point out that everything that's within the asterisk you have to complete. Otherwise, you will not be able to advance to the next screen. Now, once you, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. My name is Sharon Thompson. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have a question. Suppose you already have a ENI number, you already have your business set up, but you want to enhance it, you want to start marketing it and putting it out there. Is this program going to help me do that?
So this program will help you get a small business certification, either your minority business, your disadvantaged business, or your small business enterprise certifications through Maryland Department of Transportation. The way you market your company using those certifications is that can help you get set aside contracts at the state level, but you have to do the marketing.
Okay.
You have, yeah.
Okay. Now one more question. Let's say now I've entered into a business where I'm dealing with childcare and I'm also dealing with elderly adult care, and I want to get that business legit as far as getting it certified, etc. I've already been to the licensing and the training and things up to that nature and the on-hand experience. So, are there any grants available for these minority businesses that want to get started and need help financially getting off of the ground?
So I will tell you, I am not an expert at grants. This training is for MDOT certification. So I don't want to get off track and go down a path that this particular forum is not for.
Okay.
Okay, but there are small business resources such as the SBA, SCORE, SBDC, also the Women's Business Center, who is sponsoring this workshop, that can help you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So once you create your account, you will see this welcome screen here. Now, the certification program highlights the different certifications that you can apply for, and it's right here highlighted on the screen. Now, if you want to find out what each one of these certifications is about, just click on the button to review the eligibility requirements. And I highly advise you to do that because there may be a particular program that you think you may not be eligible for, but you may be, or vice versa. So make sure you go through and take the time to see what the eligibility requirements is for each certification. Okay, moving on to determining your eligibility. So you must be at least 51% ownership or more in socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. So as you can see here on the screen, I've highlighted some key information that you need to make sure that you meet that criteria. Minority status is one of the protected classes listed on the slide. This is applicable to the MBE certification only. Now, later in the application process, you will need to upload a resume. Now, I've highlighted here on the screen some of the text under management and control. So as you can see, the paragraph that says management and control, you must do the management and policies and do day-to-day operations and making the decisions for your company. So if you apply for this certification, you need to make sure your resume states that type of language. Now, your personal net worth. Your personal net worth is listed here on the screen. When you go through and fill out the personal net worth form, because it is a separate form and it's a form that has to be notarized as well, you'll see what the size standard is. So for instance, DBE, SDDB, 1.3.2 million. Now there's, in the form itself, there's certain things that they don't take into account, although you will fill it out. So don't think you don't qualify just because you may have 401ks, TSPs, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, or whatever. My recommendation to everyone is fill out the form to the best of your knowledge and make sure that it's accurate and then let them make the decision whether or not you qualify for that particular certification. Now, as you can see with the DBE and SDBE, the three-year average gross receipts, okay? 3-year average gross receipts that can't exceed those size standards. Now, your personal net worth is the same, again, for the DBE, ACDBE, as highlighted here on the screen, okay? I want to point out again, ownership must be 51%. So for instance, if you are going into business with, let's say your significant other, yet they are the majority owner, but you're the one that's applying, you will probably not get approved because you have to be the 51% owner. Now, this is an important section, so please stop me if you have any questions. This is going into the required information and documents. And this is where I say download the checklist in advance and make sure you have all this information readily available and the documentation, because this is the part that could frustrate people when they see the application and they get overwhelmed and they want to stop and not apply, or they want to pay someone to do it. Remember, this is a free application. It's a long process, but it's worth it to get it done, and it's free for you to do it yourself. So based on your company structure, such as sole proprietorship, an LLC, a partnership, or corporation, make sure you download and review the applicable checklist, because the checklists are out there on your website for you to make sure that you have all that information readily to go. Now, what I've listed here on this slide is common documentation that you will need regardless whether you apply for the MBE, DBE, SBE, or the ACDBE. This is common documentations that you will need for any of those certifications. On this slide, I've highlighted 2 documents that has to be notarized. Now, here's what I did when I applied for my certification. I made sure I had all those other documents on hand, ready to go, and then I went and got my notary documents notarized, because one of them is your personal net worth. So I wanted to make sure I had that form completely filled out, had everything ready to go in my application, and then I went and got that form notarized along with the affidavit of certification to make sure that there were no changes after I got those forms notarized. So that was just the way that I did it, and it worked for me. Now, the preference is to electronically submit all documents via MDOT's online application portal. So there's nothing to fax in, there's nothing to email. You use the portal to do the online application and upload all your documentation. So I recommend that you download and print the uniform certification application for references as you proceed through the online process. Jeanette, do you have a question?
Yes. You mentioned that, well, the checklist mentioned that 3 to 5 years of business receipts. Now, I've only been in business for like almost 2 years. So what would that mean?
So that would mean that the other 3rd year, it does not apply. And I will walk you through what you need to do when a particular document does not apply to you, because that's important that you do not leave that application blank, or that you do not upload a document, because it will delay your application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So this screen here asks you about your firm's location. So for this training session, we're going to assume that you are seeking certification for the first time. So you would click, your firm is not currently certified by MDOT. Your firm is located in Maryland and you are seeking certification. Okay, so then you would click on the button that says submit a uniform application, what I have highlighted here on the screen. Now, if your company is not located in Maryland, then you will need to register your business in Maryland, then return to complete your online certification application. All right. Give me 1 second. I think my screen has froze up. Yeah. Apologize as my screen seems to be acting up today. This is a first.
Hi, this is Anita. While we're waiting on you to get the screen unfrozen, do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want us to would you like us to put information in the chat or just come on and raise our hand? How do you want us to engage in this?
I prefer you come on and just raise your hand,
Okay,
come off of
So-
mute and ask the question.
okay. So yeah, I have a couple of questions. So
Okay, yeah, because I'm not monitoring chat.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
So my question is, there's other certifications out there as well. So what advantage is it for a small business for me? I've recently quit my 9 to 5 and doing my job, my company again. So what is the advantage for me? I've gotten other certifications of getting an MDOT certification. How can that help my business?
So Maryland has small business set aside goals. And I will tell you, right now for me, my company focuses on federal contracting, and I have a partner, a teaming partner that focuses on state contracts, but Maryland is very diligent in their set aside goals. For instance, for VSBEs, Veteran Small Business Enterprise goals, if it's 5% and that prime cannot find a veteran small business, then they have to tell in that solicitation who they contacted, why they were not available, or if they didn't contact anyone, what's their reason for not meeting that goal. So Maryland is very stringent on making sure that those primes meet those goals. And so those are set aside goals. So those are dollars that are set aside for applicants to have those certifications, but you have to be certified, and they will check to make sure that your business is certified so that you can get that set aside.
So I'm WBE certified. So do I still need to get this certification? I guess there's a lot of certifications out there. So I'm kind of confused on what certifications I need to continue to apply for.
Okay, so the WBE is a women's business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is minority business enterprise. So this is recognized by Maryland state certifications. So different set aside goals. Maryland doesn't have a women business, but theirs can fall under the minority business. If you recall, what was inclusive in minority.
MBE. So I have I'm already MBE. So the women business and the MBE, those are the ones that I'm certified under. So I wouldn't be certified because this says MBE, DBE, ACDBE, SBE. So
I know it's a lot of certifications. It is a lot of certifications, and I will tell you, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity because you didn't get a certification and you see something that says, oh, I wish I was a small business enterprise in Maryland because I see this particular opportunity that has a set aside goal, but they can't award it to you if you're not certified.
So when I go through this application, because I'm already MBE, I'm women business, WBE and MBE certified. When I put in my information, is it going to say that I'm already certified?
It's probably going to say that, did you certify through Maryland Department of Transportation?
No, I certified through the city of Baltimore.
Okay, then this is Maryland Department of Transportation application.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So all right. This is where we left off at.
Sharon has
So-
a question. Sharon is raising her hand.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon. I couldn't see that you were raising your
I'm
hand. Go ahead.
sorry. I have a question for Miss Hicks. Miss Hicks, what kind of business are you do you sponsor here with your women's business?
So I
Hold
think
on.
Rosalind wants to stay on topic. So I think if you want to put something in the chat, you can chat with me there.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. I appreciate that because this is a 1-hour workshop and it is definitely focusing on Maryland Department of Transportation certification. So thank you so much. So listed on this screen is the 4-step process. The business name is pre-populated from a previous screen. And then autofill will pre-populate certain information such as your email address, your company, as you proceed through the application, so you won't have to keep duplicating that information. Now, by answering these questions here on this screen, it will help you determine if you should apply for certification. Now, if you are a not-for-profit business, do not proceed because your business is not eligible for certification. This certification is for-profit businesses. The next few slides are kind of overall application instructions. But something I want to point out on this screen is if you're unable to provide documents because it's not applicable, so Jeanette, this goes to your question, then use a Word or PDF document and state so. For instance, Jeanette, you would say you do not have year 3 tax returns because your business started in 2022. Put that on a Word document, put your application number on there, sign it, and that is the document you would upload to show that the MDOT that does not apply to you, and here's the reason why. So again, do not leave anything blank and do not forget to upload a document just because it doesn't apply. Provide rationale why it doesn't apply and upload that information. So
Okay,
now,
thank you.
oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Now, if you leave a mandatory document unfilled, and we'll get into what a mandatory document is, and it still shows red, you will not be able to complete your application. So you want to make sure that, again, I would recommend having that checklist in front of you, making sure you have all the documentation ready to go, because once you start your application, you're only given a certain time frame to get it done, and that time frame may be 90 to 120 days. And if you have not done anything with your application as far as submitting it, it's going to cancel out and you will have to start over. Now, here is the list of mandatory documents, but due to time constraints, I'm not going to go through this entire list of documents in detail because I'm going to cover these in part 2, which part 2 is taking place on Tuesday, November 14th at the same time with the Women's Business Center. Now, here is the list of all the, if applicable, documents. Now, this is where, if they don't apply, I'm going to walk you through in part 2, what do you need to do if these documents do not apply? So this slide is a review of your application. So it has your application number at the top of the screen. Now, don't forget to refer to any external correspondence. For instance, if you upload a Word document because something doesn't apply to you, make it a point to put your application number on there so it doesn't get lost or they don't know what it doesn't apply to. This is also a reminder, if you don't complete your application by the date that's listed, because they'll tell you what date you have until to complete your application will be deleted and you will not be able to request an extension. Now, here's some additional instructions before you begin your application. So I want to read over here to the right, this red arrow. It says complete all sections of the application. Red, it's mandatory. It must be filled out. It must be a document that's uploaded. Yellow is optional. That's if it applies to your business structure. And if you see a green arrow, that means you have completed that particular area of the application. The key is to do not leave blanks on the application, because once you're done, you should see all green check marks. Uh, So I would also recommend that as you go through the application to save, because as you can see today, my screen froze up on me. So make sure that you continue to save your work. I got into the habit of after I completed each section, I hit save. Because you don't want to get to the bottom and realize that your information got lost or something, and it did not save. So that is just my recommendation, save after each section. Now, what you see now is this is the start of the application. So everything is red. Now, once you complete, like for instance, section 1, it's going to turn to green. So if any of you are familiar with sam.gov that you registered with the federal government, in MDOT, you can complete your application in any order that you want. So if you want to start with section 1 and then move to section 3, you can do that in MDOT. So just keep that in mind that you do not have to go in order to finish your application. But I will tell you that the system will not allow you to sign and submit your application if this screen here is not all green with the green arrows. Okay, section 1 of the application is your basic contact information. So as you can see over here on the far right of the screen, it tells you that this is required information, which means you must answer the question. Once you answer the question, it'll turn green. And if it's an optional question, you'll see that it's yellow. Now, some of this information has already been pre-populated from your previous section, like your business name and everything. Now, once you complete section 1, this is what the screen will look like. It'll basically say your basic contact information is complete. You'll see that that check mark has turned to green. You can always come back and refer to this screen here, and it'll give you a visual representation of which sections you have completed and which sections you still need to complete. Now, moving on to prior other certifications and applications. So section 1, certification information. This section is where you will make the selection on the type of certification that you are applying for. So whether that's MBE, DBE, SBE, or the ACDBE. Once again, I recommend applying for the MBE, the DBE, and SBE at one time because it's a uniform application and you can get all 3 of those certifications at one time versus applying separately. Now, each question, as you can see, is mandatory on this screen. So you must answer each question that's listed here on this screen. Now, this section continues with more mandatory questions. Now, moving into section 2. Section 2 is general information, your business profile. So enter a brief description of your company offerings. For instance, Rhoda Business Solutions, I provide program and project lifecycle management, strategic engagements, and organizational development training. So I would kind of put that there in that box of my brief description. And then you want to select the code, which links to your North American Industry Classification Codes, or your NAICS codes. These you can find on census.gov under NAICS. If you don't know what NAICS code applies to your business, basically it's saying what type of service or product do you provide, and it applies to one of these applicable NAICS codes. Now, this information here on the screen, it should be self-explanatory. So use the same date for established as owned. For instance, the date that you established your business and the date that you own your business, to just keep it simple. If you're not for profit, again, don't proceed because your company is not eligible for certification. Business profile continuing. So include yourself as one of the type employees. If you're a company of 1, then you just put yourself as 1 full-time, 0 part-time, 0 seasonal. On the screen, you'll also notice that you'll need to upload a document with the list of employees per category, title, and dates of employment. If you are the only employee, this part will be in A for you. Now, it also says you must attach the last 5 years of your federal tax returns. Now, Jeanette, in your case, because you've just started, you do not have tax returns to submit. So again, use a Word document, PDF, or whatever, and type a letter stating no federal tax return, business started in whatever year. And then include your application number, your business name, and then the applicable years that apply to when you started your business. Now, you have to complete a letter for each year that's not applicable, because when you go to upload documents, it will ask you for, 2000, 2001, 2002, whatever those years are. So you will have to do a separate document for each year that does not apply. Okay, moving on to section 2, general information. So each question again on this screen, as you can see, is mandatory and it's indicated by the red box. So answer as appropriate and then click save and return to the summary to advance to the next section. More mandatory questions. Most of these questions are self-explanatory, so I'm not going to take the time to go through them in detail. Section 3. Now, this is the majority owner information section. If you are the owner, click Add Owner right here that I have circled on this screen to start this particular section. Complete all the areas that are in red. Some information, again, has been pre-populated from previous sections. Now, down here where it says stocks, if you don't own stock, click Not Applicable and use your start date as the date acquired, but do not leave it blank. I'll pause there. Okay. For owner information, as applicable, if you made initial capital investments into start your business, then you would enter that information. If you didn't, just enter 0 or as applicable. But you will need to submit proof of how you acquired your business. For example, if you started the business yourself, then include your state business registration. Make sure that the name of your company that you apply for state business registration is the same name that you're putting in this application. And I mention that only because if you called your business a tech company versus a technology company, that could delay your application. So be very specific. Now, the first 2 questions are green because they have already been answered and saved. The important question on this screen is your personal net worth. Now, if you have not completed your personal net worth statement, then fill in a number only just to complete this screen. But it's going to be very important that you come back and use the correct number once you complete your personal net worth statement, because those 2 numbers need to match. The number that you have on your personal net worth statement form and the number that you enter here, those 2 numbers must match. I stayed here to just put a number. It could be 1, just so you can complete this screen, but it's important to come back and make sure that those 2 informations match. Moving on to section 4, control. Now, you can enter yourself as the officer and as the board of directors. Don't feel that you have to have different names in each one of these sections. If you are the person, the point of contact for each one of these, then enter your name and information in each one of these. But as you can see, it's mandatory. Now, section 4, control, management personnel. Again, you can list yourself as the point of contact with the same title for each question if you are the sole person within your company. It's perfectly okay to do so, but you must fill in the blocks. Section 4, control inventory. Now, for equipment and vehicle inventory, on this screen, do not include your personal owned vehicles, your POVs, as vehicles. This is for business. Only list company vehicles, such as vehicles that bear your company name. Maybe it's a tow truck, maybe it's a box car, maybe it's a food truck. So don't confuse this with the POV. Now, also enter the purchase office space or lease value. So if you purchased or leasing a warehouse space, then you would enter that information there. Storage space, for example, like if you have a storage warehouse, if you have a front store, then you also list that here. Financial information. Now, the first question, now, if you use QuickBooks to manage your own payroll, then the answer is no. But on the other hand, if you use a company such as ADP or Paychex or some other company that manages your payroll, then answer yes. So it's a matter of who manages your payroll. Now, I want to point out these highlighted sections. So list the individual who can sign checks for your company. If that's you, list your name. Now, the bank signature authorization form or letter will need to be uploaded in the document section. So make sure that when you have your business bank account, that you have a bank signature authorization form or letter, depending on your banking institution, and it's on their letterhead. And when we get into workshop part number 2, you'll have to upload those type of documents. The question about bonding on this form is typically applies to construction companies. So if you're not in the construction business, this information does not apply to you. Now, if you select yes on sources of loan, make sure that your sources of loan matches what you put on your personal net worth statement. Again, it's about making sure all the information within your application and your documentation matches. As you can see, section 4 is very long. It just have different subsections. So now we're moving into licenses and contracts. The first question here, it asks you about your licenses. These are talking about licenses such as engineers, plumbers, electricians. So make sure you upload your license or your permit certificate. In addition to listing the contracts, you will also need to upload a copy of the contract. So on this screen, you're just identifying what type of contracts you have. When you get to the documentation section, you will actually have to upload those contracts. If you don't have any contracts yet, this part will be not applicable to you. Now, in the additional information section, you use this to identify if you were a prime or sub on any other pertinent information that's required. Now, again, this is the status page of the application. This is that visual representation so you can keep track how far you are in completing your application. Again, the system is not going to allow you to submit until this whole screen is green. All right, again, the document list. Now, here is the list of mandatory documents that will be submitted with your application. Again, this is electronically submission via the online portal. We're not going to go through this document list. This will be covered in part 2, which is on November 14th at 12 o'clock by the Women's Business Center. And if you signed up for today, you may have already been automatically enrolled into part 2. If not, you just want to make sure that you go back and register for part 2. So on this screen, you would click the lock in button, and then for the resume, you're going to include your resume if you're the owner and any other employees of your company. And ditto on this. So we're getting to wrap up on this, and I want to go through some key takeaways. Now, here's my recommendation. This is what I did before I started this application, because you can see it's very intensive. It could be overwhelming if you just take a look at it and see all the information that you need. But I created a folder on my desktop that had all the documentations that it required in the application so that I can immediately find them and upload them as applicable. You also want to retain a copy of the entire application package for your files once you do submit your application. Speaking of application, I want to remind everyone that it is free. This is a free application to submit. There are people out there that will charge you lots of money to do this for you. Essentially, you are taking all those documents that you have gathered and giving it to someone else and paying them to do this for you. If that's what you would prefer to do, by all means, but this is free, and I personally did not pay anyone to do mine, and I would not pay anyone to do mine. The application is a 4-step process. You go through and you complete your application, they do a site visit, they review your application, and then they render a decision. The required information and documents, as you can see on the application process, the information is red, is you must answer the question or you must upload a document. Another key important part about the application is your personal net worth statement. It's in section 4 in the majority owner information. So this is important, again, to go back to that section. If you just put 0 just to get through that particular part of the application, and now you have completed your personal net worth statement, make sure those two numbers match. And finally, excuse me, if you have any questions, you can now answer those questions if you were waiting to the end, because we are at the end of this training workshop. And I want to thank everyone for their questions. Thank you for your patience and my screen freezing up on me. That is a first, but it did happen. And so we got through it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So we talked about NAIC codes. How many NAIC codes are you able to upload in this application?
As many as is applicable.
Okay.
But here, let me caution you though, because if you say you want to enter a NAICS code of something that you think you want to do 3 years down the line, and you don't have the background to support that you know how to do that particular work, that's going to cause a problem. It's going to cause a problem.
Okay.
Yep. So only
Okay.
list NAICS codes that you have experience in. And I say you, meaning your company.
Okay. Okay.
Because you would have to
So,
prove that you got that experience, that education, that training from somewhere.
okay. All right. So you made one area on there mentioned like your employees. Does that include 1099s?
Yes. If you use,
Okay.
especially if you use those 1099s on a recurring basis.
Okay. Okay, and also just my last question, you mentioned that it's going to allow you to upload some contracts. So what does that also include contracts that we're no longer working on? Like me, a 1099 consultant, this is my second contract. So would I load that first one that I'm no longer a part of anymore?
You can, just to show that you do have experience in running a business.
Okay, all right.
Now,
Thank you.
I will
Oh,
tell,
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say this. And again, these are my views and the views of me. Sometimes less is better.
Okay, got
It's
it.
less stuff for people to review and scrutinize. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Now's the time. If you've got any questions.
So I have
Okay.
one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, part 2 is on November 14th. Let's say if, there's a snowstorm, well, not a snowstorm, but something happened where you can't attend part 2. Do we have to do part 1 over to get to part 2 again?
No, you don't.
Okay,
Matter of fact, if you signed on after the fact, Marvin mentioned that these workshops are posted on their website. The recordings are. I do not share my slides because I don't want someone to take this information and then start charging people to provide this type of training. If that makes sense. But the recording is on their website.
okay.
Yeah, and I'll send a link to the recording on our YouTube website, so you can go back and look at it, and any of this information that Rosalind has gone through today, you can revisit it through that link.
Oh, okay. So attendance at the, at this course is not mandatory to submit the application.
Correct. No,
Okay,
not at all.
got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
But even so, if you do plan on attending, whether something comes up or not, just go ahead and register for the second part anyway, and that way when let's say you don't get to do the second part for some reason and you register, I mean, you can still go to our website and look at it on our website. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I am registered for it, but I'm just like, if something come up, I just want to make sure that I can get the information, but you said it'll be on the website. So thank you for that.
All right, if there's no
Yeah.
further questions, I offer you to connect with me on LinkedIn, because as these workshops come up, I do post them there, just in case you can't get to the one next week. There'll be future opportunities for you to tune into these training workshops.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree, and it's always better to attend them, attend the webinars live, because if you have questions, you can always ask. There's always something will always come up where you say, "Oh, I wish I was there because I could have asked this question." So it's important, to actually be on here to get the interaction. So. Well,
Right.
with that, Rosalind, thanks again for a lot of valuable, useful information, and we appreciate you. And I guess everybody, thank you for attending, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
All
Thank
right. Thank
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rosalind. I've already connected with you on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.